Cuando te toca entrar en el último panel, aparte de que haya muchas cosas dichas, somos realmente lo único que les separa de su almuerzo, con lo cual una cierta impaciencia puede tener, pero yo creo que nos va a dejar con muy buen sabor de boca la charla que nos va a ofrecer el profesor. Unas frases nada más para presentarle, porque el currículum no me atrevo a leerlo porque estaríamos hasta la tarde. Simplemente, primero dar las gracias a todos los patrocinadores por promover este interesante encuentro en pensiones, especialmente a Diego Valero y su equipo, porque hace un esfuerzo ya desde hace años importantísimo y el carácter internacional que tiene yo creo que es muy loable y muy distinto a lo que hacemos habitualmente otras entidades. Hoy tenemos el honor de escuchar pues, a uno de los grandes referentes en finanzas conductuales, pionero y experto mundial. Meir Statman es profesor de la Cátedra de Finanzas en la Universidad de Santa Clara, California, desde 1990. Ha escrito numerosos libros y sus investigaciones son publicadas en las principales revistas financieras de Estados Unidos y de Europa y de todo el mundo, entre otras muchas publicaciones de renombre. A lo largo de su carrera, el profesor ha aportado una visión revolucionaria sobre la relación entre nuestras emociones, las decisiones financieras que tomamos y el bienestar en general. Como sabrán las personas que han tenido el placer de conocer su obra, Meir es una persona que ha evolucionado desde la parte más matemática de las finanzas, en la que incluso ha sido pionero en la elaboración de modelos matemáticos de inversión conductual. Siguiendo las pautas conductuales, ha creado modelos de carteras e inversiones y ha ido evolucionando hacia el concepto integral del bienestar, donde el bienestar financiero, evidentemente, ocupa una parte muy importante. El profesor acaba de escribir su último libro, que se ha traducido al español recientemente con el título de El valor del bienestar. Está traducido al español, yo creo que es una magnífica noticia para todos los que no dominamos la lengua inglesa, y aquí veo que en sus países de origen pues puede tener una gran cabida. Es una edición en la cual ustedes podrán conocer cuáles son los diferentes conceptos que tienen que ver con el bienestar general. El bienestar es financiero, pero también es emocional, también es físico, y todos se influyen y se retroalimentan. Ahí es donde está basada esta obra. El profesor, durante su participación en esta jornada, va a profundizar en todos estos aspectos y nos invitará a reflexionar acerca de la importancia de integrar nuestras decisiones financieras con el bienestar personal y social. Yo esperaba que tuviéramos oportunidad de hacer alguna pregunta, pero como vamos muy justos de tiempo, seguro que en el networking que hay en la jornada podrán hablar con él. En definitiva, aprovechemos esta oportunidad para hablar con él de su libro, El valor del bienestar, y explorar cómo sus ideas pueden ayudarnos a tomar mejores decisiones financieras para aproximarnos a una vida más estable y equilibrada. Muchas gracias, profesor. Cuando quiera.
No, Thank you, Jose Carlos and Iber Caja, and good afternoon to all of you. I'm delighted to be with you. So I begin with a question for you to think about. So think about a ladder that has steps from 0 to 10. 0 represents the worst possible life that you can imagine for yourself, and 10 is the best possible life you can imagine. Where would you put yourself? Is it a 6, a 7, an 8, a 9, or perhaps a 10? So when you look at statistics about how people place themselves, what you find is that it is arrayed by age according to something that looks like a U-curve. So well-being declines from from adulthood, early adulthood, to middle age, say middle 50s, and then begins to go up. And as you can see, I am past 55, and I can testify that that is indeed true. So I'll come back to that, but for now, the point I'm making is that what we seek is life well-being. Now, financial well-being comes when we can manage our saving and spending now and in the future, pensions. But life well-being comes when we live full lives, full of meaning, full of purpose. And it comes when we enjoy evaluative, experienced, and meaning well-being. Now, we need financial well-being to enjoy life well-being, but eventually it is life well-being that we seek. So there are three parts to life well-being. Evaluative well-being, experienced, and meaning. Evaluative well-being is what I just asked you to think about in this Cantril ladder, as it is called. This requires you to think about your life as a whole, not how you feel at this very moment, but when you assess your life, you think about it, and you say, I would say, on the whole, given family, given friends, given health, that it is more like a 6 or a 7 or an 8. Experience well-being is about emotions. How do you feel right now? Is it happy? Is it sad? Is it frustrating? Now, you probably heard this famous result by Kahneman and Deaton that experience well-being, emotional well-being, stops climbing once you reach $75,000. And the idea is that, say, if you think about frustration, well, you know, if you have $50,000 of income, you are likely to be frustrated by your kids from time to time. And if you have 200,000, you might be equally frustrated with your kids from time to time. And so after 75,000, you know, those things are about the same. Frustrations are about the same. It turns out that it's actually not so, that experience well-being continues to go up even after 75, even 100 or 200,000. And if you can think about it, it's not hard to see. That is, if you are frustrated because your son got into an accident and now there's a big bill to pay, if you have low income, it is a big deal. It can mean that there is no money for say, going out to a restaurant or even simpler things, buying shoes and clothes and so on. If you have $200,000 or $300,000, it is not as difficult. You know, it is annoying, but it is not as difficult. So income has a lot to do with life well-being. There's also meaning well-being. That's a simple question. That is, do you think that your life has meaning? Do you think that there is a place for you in this world? And so all of those three meanings or versions or parts of well-being matter. Now, why is it that we have this U-curve of evaluative well-being? I think that what is happening here is the gap between where we are and our aspirations and our ambitions. So when you are a young adult, you have your first job. You are at the bottom. You have bosses, maybe not very pleasant ones. Then you have kids, teenagers. It is getting to be difficult. Once you cross that, it begins on the upside, not because you have achieved everything, but because you say, I've done well. Bob Merton talked earlier about how people who are, say, retired from their regular jobs, say as a professor, might take a job, even working for Walmart or something like that. They have already achieved what they are going to achieve in their profession, and they don't really care much about status anymore. They know who they are. And so we need to be ambitious when we are young. Because if you are not ambitious, if you don't save, you will not have enough later on. But the art of life is that as you age, you say, things are fine. I don't have to run anymore. I have all I'm going to achieve. And so life well-being has domains. And finances, of course, are there. But also family, marriage, children, grandchildren, pets. For some people, pets are like children. Friends, health, work, hobbies, education, values, religion, spirituality, and society. In 2 weeks, we're going to have elections in the United States. I don't know who is going to win, but I know that half the country is going to be happy and half the country is going to be miserable. I just don't know which it is going to be. So when we think about life well-being, if I just ask you, without giving you any context, what is most important in life, you are likely to say family. It comes first. Health, work. You're not likely to say money. But money, of course, one, by itself enhances well-being, and money underlies everything else, because you need money to support yourself and your family. You need money to see a doctor, go to the hospital. You need money for education, and so on. And so money, or financial well-being, is really crucial by itself in supporting life well-being and in underlying all of the other domains. And so you can see people in finance kind of think about financial well-being as the center of it, and people who say work in sociology and so on will think about things like family. But the two must be put together. You must have financial well-being to enjoy life well-being. So, as I said, we need money for everything else in life. Now, I'm going to give you just a quick review of where we are in behavioral finance and where we are going, where I think we are going. So when people generally think about behavioral finance or have heard some things about it, the things that come to mind are those cognitive and emotional errors, overconfidence, regret, and these. That is true, but that really is the first generation. So in the first before behavioral finance, we described people as rational, computer-like rational, focusing on maximizing wealth and free of any cognitive and emotional errors. In the first generation of behavioral finance, and I was part of it at the very beginning of the 1980s, we talked about them as being irrational, bumbling, irrational, making all kinds of cognitive and emotional errors. In the second generation, I said, thank you. Thank you so much. In the second generation, I said, financial products are like other products, like cars, like watches. A $100 watch shows the same time as a $5,000 watch, but people who buy those $5,000 watch, Patek Philippe or similar, they're not stupid, they're not irrational. They want utilitarian benefits. They want a watch that will show the right time, but also want the expressive and emotional benefits of I am a successful man, a woman, able to buy this kind of watch. And then in the third generation, and I'll explain those in just a bit, as in the second one, people are normal. I describe people are as normal. People like you, people like me. We are not computer-like rational, and we are definitely not bumbling irrational. We can drive from here to there. Most days, very rarely, we get into an accident. We are not stupid. And what we try to do is to enhance our financial well-being and life well-being. And so as I see it, people ask, what is on the frontier of finance? Is it AI? Is it ESG? I say they are all in the circle of finance, and that circle of finance is expanding. So AI is in it, ESG in it, option pricing are in it, and so on. But there is more to it, and we should not limit ourselves to these. So initially, we started with standard finance. I describe it as being anorexic. It was scientific, but it was narrow. He said, we don't really care about things like why it is that people use active managers rather than index funds. We don't really concern ourselves with whether they're committing cognitive errors because we just assume that they are rational. And here's a good definition of rational, because when we talk about rational, when we mention the word rational in everyday language, we think about rational as just being reasonable. So we say, is it reasonable for somebody to buy a $5,000 watch? Yeah, I suppose so, if that's what we want. But Miller and Modigliani defined it, I think, much, much better. They say that rational people are people who always want more wealth to less. Seems reasonable. And rational people are never confused by the form of the wealth. So, for example, think about dividends, one of their very famous papers. So the point of it is that if you expected a $1,000 cash dividend from a company, and for some reason the company did not pay that, no big deal. You just sell $1,000 worth of stocks, and you get what we call homemade dividends. Money is money, equally green, or whatever the color is. Now, so in a paper that that Herr Schäffrin and I wrote at the beginning of the 1980s, we said, no, people make a distinction between capital and income. People make a distinction that matters to dividends. And here is how it goes. The way we save is that we have mental accounts, one for income and one for capital. We move money during our working lives from our income mental account to our capital mental account. And it can be a savings account, it can be a 401k as we have it in the United States, an individual retirement account. And then we use a rule that says spend income but don't dip into capital. And that is, of course, very useful because it helps you with self-control. So if you want to buy whatever, a car, a fancy car, you say, well, I have enough money in that retirement savings account. Maybe I'll just take the money from there. But then there's a voice in you that says, whoa, that violates don't dip into capital. And when you take money for a dividend, if you don't get a dividend, you take money by selling shares, that's dipping into capital. And that is not allowed. Okay? So when Herr Schäffrin and I wrote that paper, we got a lot of resistance. You know, we thought that the paper will never be published in a top finance journal. And the reason it got published was that the reviewer was Fisher Black of Black & Scholes option pricing. And he liked it. And the editor just did not have the courage to say no. So he says, well, you know, after a lot of soul searching, I guess I agree. And so it was published, and off we went. So what the first generation of behavioral finance, it set aside that second part of Miller-Modigliani's definition of rationality, that people are indifferent to form. They just care about the money. Because here, the money is the same in dividends or homemade dividends, but people make a distinction between them. Now, I was a student at the Hebrew University in the late 1960s. I studied economics and statistics and finance. The building next to mine was the building that had the psychology faculty. And I would go there from time to participate in experiments for pocket money. You know, it was fun, and it paid for some lunch. Kahneman and Tversky were doing their pioneering work in that building at that time. I had no idea who they were, no idea about their work. None of my professors mentioned their name. It was only later when I came to Santa Clara University and started to work with Herr Schäffrin, who was working with Dick Thaler, who is by now, of course, a Nobel Prize winner, that I got that literature. So I said, that is good, but still, something is missing. Investors are normal. And what does it mean that you are normal? It's not average. It simply means, for example, how do I know that you're normal? Well, do you want to avoid poverty? Sure. Do you want prospects for riches? Sure. You know, do you want to nurture your children? That is what normal is. So we are all normal. And do we sometimes commit cognitive errors? Do we sometimes get to think that because we can tell the past for sure, we can tell the future also? Do we sometimes feel regret. Why did I do this stupid thing? That is perfectly normal. So I said, all products and services, people in marketing, of course, say, of course, have utilitarian, expressive, and emotional benefits. This is a woman, an American woman, who said, my financial status enabled us to purchase this home that is well out of reach for many individuals in my age group and place in life. I felt proud that my family could make the decision to purchase this type of the house. So what does a house provide? It provides utilitarian benefits. You know, you have a place where you can sleep and out of the rain. But it also says, if it's a fancier house, I have high social status, and we care about social status. How do we present ourselves and to others? And it has emotional benefits. I feel pride. Okay, when people come to see me, they go into the house, they say, wow, what a beautiful house. And that makes me feel proud. So what I say in that second generation of behavioral finance is that investors, like all people, care for utilitarian, expressive, and emotional benefits, and sometimes they are willing to give up utilitarian benefits for their expressive and emotional benefits. So if you buy a $5,000 Patek Philippe, it costs more than that. Yes, you diminish your wealth, but you gain that high social status and pride. So socially responsible investing is a perfect example of it, and I got interested in that and wrote about it many years ago, because here is a perfect example that some people will not have in their portfolio oil company stocks or tobacco stocks or whatever other ideological preferences they have that provide for expressive and emotional benefit, and sometimes they're willing to give up returns to achieve that. And so sometimes they're willing to give up utilitarian benefits for it. So in the third generation of behavioral finance, we are normal. We seek more than financial well-being. We seek more than utilitarian, expressive, and emotional benefits. We seek high life well-being. So what does it say about savings plan and about pensions? So I'm on the retirement saving committee of Santa Clara University, my university. And so I draw from my experience and from my knowledge. So at Santa Clara University, the university contributes 10% on top of our salary into our retirement savings account. This is a defined contribution plan. So we don't have a pension. We don't have a defined benefit pension. We have our own accounts, and they can go up and down depending on the kinds of investments that we have. The contributions of the university are before tax. So we pay tax only when we take the money out. We, employees, we can contribute also on top of that, and we can contribute it on a before tax basis or after tax. We call it a Roth account, which means that you don't get a deduction up front. You pay taxes on your income before you can take money and put it into the savings account, but you don't have to pay taxes on it when you take the money out, where hopefully it is going to be accumulating. So at Santa Clara, there is no matching by the university of contributions by employees. So it is 10% straight. At other universities and many companies, there is matching. And there's always a proposal by some people on the committee, why don't we do it as they do it at some other universities? For example, we'll give you 5% straight, and then another 5% if you also put in 5%. So this way, there's going to be 15% altogether, 10% from the university and 5% extra from you. I always argue against it. This system of nudging works very well for people like me and most people at the university, faculty. We earn enough money that for us it's no big deal. I mean, I put in 5% and I get 5% from the university. You know, it's free money. It is wonderful. But for employees at a lower level who don't have that kind of money, this means that they are going to forego that nudge and, in fact, not get that other 5%, the second 5%, because they don't have the money to contribute. And so I'm not really fond at all of that matching system. Let it be just straight. Now, we, employees of Santa Clara University, have a range of mutual funds that we can choose from: stocks, real estate, bonds, and so on. Some funds are passive index funds that have expense ratios as low as 3 basis points, 0.03 of 1% per year. I invest only in these funds. Widely diversified, total stock market, total US stock market fund, total international fund, and a bond. They call it an annuity. It's really a savings account that earns interest. Other employees choose funds that are active. Supposedly, they're going to beat the market. And they charge 1% per year or more. Now, there is a funny thing that goes on that I discovered years ago as I joined the committee. You know, the companies that of those funds, Fidelity and TIAA, they also provide websites and services, you know, if you want to move money from here to there, if you want advice and so on, they provide that. They get paid. How is it that they get paid? They get paid because the university has a cost-sharing agreement with them. They take money from those people who pay 1% or more on their active funds, and they pay TIAA and Fidelity for their services. Now, for me, selfishly speaking, I benefit from them because you cannot take much from 3 basis points to support that. But people who pay for those active funds, in fact, are subsidizing me. And as much as I try to get the university to change that and say, have a cost charged directly to employees or for the university to pay it out of its pocket, that does not seem to work. So you know, you hear and I try to figure out the particulars of your retirement saving plans in Spain and Latin America. You know, each of them has its own features and peculiarities. This is one, and perhaps if you come across that later on, just be mindful and just remember that. So we also have those life cycle funds, you know, that reduce the proportion of stocks as people near retirement. So those target date funds I built on standard portfolio theory, where people look for portfolios on the mean variance efficient frontier. Our risk tolerance is high when we are young, and we have a lot of human capital, ability to work and earn money, and our risk tolerance diminishes as we age, and so we put more in bonds. In behavioral portfolio theory that Hershevin and I have developed, the story is different. What we say in a simple form is that we want two things in life. One is not to be poor, and the other is to be rich. What Bob Merton talked about earlier today is about the not being poor layer of that mental account. You know, enough for you to maintain your standard of life throughout your life. And he says, after that, you know, you can buy, you have your own house, you can buy other houses and rent them out, you can buy stocks, you can do whatever it takes, options, to get that rich. Now, that is really important, because what it means is that if you are old, say my age, and you already have this not being poor mental account, then there's no reason for me to reduce my risk tolerance as I age. So my portfolio, for example, has more than 80% in stocks, because the 20% I have in those safe assets is enough to support me in my lifestyle throughout life. And so it has a different logic to it. And you know, I wrote 2 papers with Harry Markowitz. Harry Markowitz of mean variance portfolio theory, Nobel Prize winner. And when I met him for the first time 30 years ago, we were at a conference together, and I took the opportunity to sit with him at lunch, and I pointed out at our plates, and I said, okay, here is what behavioral portfolios look like. That is, I like my green vegetables on one side, I like my mashed potatoes on the other, I like my fried chicken in the middle. I say, in mean variance, you don't really care if you take all of those ingredients, put them in a blender, and then you can suck them in, because all that matters is what happens in your stomach, you know? It's all the form doesn't matter. And so Markowitz laughed, and he got the point right away. And so later on, we wrote the papers that kind of combine mean variance and behavioral portfolio theory. But Harry Markowitz was a wonderful, wonderful man in many ways. But one of them is that he understood real people. Okay, he was not one who is so tempted by the beauty of mathematics to ignore what people really are. So, again, in standard portfolio theory, or standard life cycle theory, we save when we work, and then we spend. And so the ideal is that you spend the last dollar on the day you die. In behavioral life cycle, what you have is a recognition that young people have a problem with insufficient self-control. That is, they're all kind, you know, their friends are going to a fancy restaurant. Well, you don't want to lose them, so you go there even though you don't have the money to do that. You get yourself on a credit card, and so on. The funny thing is that when we are old, the real problem is for many people who have accumulated a good amount of money because they were so good at saving. Now, they find it really, really hard to break the habit of saving and spend. So some years ago, I wrote an article in the Wall Street Journal about this problem of older people with lots of money who have difficulty spending. And I've never received such an avalanche of comments from people who said, "You are describing me." One said, as I read the article, as soon as I finished this article, I went out and fitted myself for a set of fancy golf clubs. I don't play golf, so I don't really know the brand, but obviously it is one that costs plenty of money. Another said he is wealthy. I know that from the email and the name. He said that when he wants to spend money on something that he thinks of as a luxury, he takes a position on a board of directors to earn money so he can pay for that. It's ridiculous, yeah? But people have this problem. And so, yes, it is important to get young people to save, absolutely. And it's important to get people who don't have much to spend reasonably. But it really is also important for those who have plenty of money to just relax. Spend it on yourself, spend it on others. Some years ago, my wife and I, were flying long distance over the ocean from California. We were on the upgrade list on United, upgrade to business class. But we were not upgraded. Not to the place and not the way back. And then we caught ourselves and we said, we are sufficiently old, we are sufficiently well off to buy business class. They are expensive. They are a murder. But what are we going to do with all that money? We cannot take it with us. And we don't want to be the richest people in the cemetery. So we spent, and we increased our donations to charity. So now we get joy from spending on ourselves and supporting people who are less fortunate than we are. But if you want to go out with me to a Michelin star restaurant where we're going to split the cost, not for me, okay? I know that when they call it pâté, they mean chopped liver, okay? I would feel like an idiot if I pay for that. Whoa, that is wonderful, I'd rather go home, slice a tomato, and be done with it. So ask yourself, what brings you joy? What brings you joy? Helping yourself, helping your family, helping people in the community. So again, to kind of bring it all together, financial well-being is extremely important on its own and because it underlies all the domains of life. And, we have to think, I think of life well-being now as a portfolio. All families, all portfolios have stocks that went up and stocks that went down. We diversify because we don't know which of them is going to be a winner and which of them is going to be a loser. The same applies to the portfolio of domains of life well-being: family, work, health, and so on. Every family, including ours, has points of pain. Our older daughter, unfortunately, lives with bipolar illness, a mental illness. And years ago, when we were struggling with that, it just got into into our life altogether. It seems like everything that we were working for just disintegrated. Here is that girl, talented, wanted to be a lawyer, and suddenly you see all of those dreams disintegrate. So this is our story. The stories of other families are different. It may not be a disabled child. It may be cancer. It might be something else that goes on. The point really is that what we need to do is we have to think about our life well-being as a portfolio, use surplus in some domains for others. So for example, we have a very large amount of money, so we can support our daughter without, in fact, shortchanging ourselves. We have a younger daughter who loves her older one, and we know that she supports her now and will support her when we are gone. And so that kind of compensates for the fact that we have that pain in one domain. And so it is really important to do that. And it is important to be open to others. So when I talk with people about my daughter, they don't necessarily tell me about mental illness in their family, but they'll tell me about something else that is gone. And here we are. You know, we were colleagues before, and now we are friends. We are comforting each other, increasing the life. And it costs nothing. It's just a matter of being open to others and thinking about it as helping other people. And we help other people, and in the process, we help ourselves. So thank you all very much.